Section 1 of The Light of Egypt, or the Science of the Soul and the Stars, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jill Preston. The Light of Egypt, or the Science of the Soul and the Stars, Volume 2. By Thomas Bergoni. Volume 2, Introduction. What study is more sublime, inspiring, and profitable in the highest sense than the language of the stars? Those silent monitors of the midnight sky, who reveal His will as secondary causes in the administration of universal law. The science of the stars is the divine parent of all science. The more earnest our study, the more recondite our research and thorough our investigation of the science of the stars, the more fully shall we realize the truth of the teacher's words. Astrology is the key that opens the doors to all occult knowledge. It is the key that unlocks the mysteries of man's being, his why, whence, whither. Within the temple of Urania lies concealed the mystery of life. The indices are there, written by the finger of the Infinite in the heavens above. It is our privilege to make this language our own, and it should be the earnest work of every true student of nature to acquire a right understanding and correct interpretation of these divine symbols. And as thorough students of any language seek out the derivation of words and expressions, search for the root or stem word and its origin, so should the student of astrology, by sincere desire and earnest study, seek to know the origin and root of these starry words and complex expressions of the language of the stars. The sun, moon, and 5 planets of our solar system are to us symbols of the reflected and refracted rays of the triune attributes of the great central spiritual sun, life, light, and love, analogous to the 3 primary colors in nature, which become still further refracted into 4 secondary or complementary colors, rays, or attributes, the 7 constituting the active principles of nature, the 7 rays of the solar spectrum, the 7 notes of a perfect musical scale, there being throughout a perfect correspondence, and all are but different modes of vibration or activities of the Supreme Intelligence. And as we know, the 7 rays of color reflect an almost infinite variety of tints, that octave upon octave are built upon the 7 natural tones in music. So also are these 7 active principles divided and subdivided into innumerable forms, qualities, and manifestations of the first trinity: life, light, love. Life being the manifestation of the second 2, love and wisdom, which in turn are the dual expressions of the one. Upon the knowledge of these divine truths, Pythagoras built the theory of the music of the spheres. Let us pause and listen to this celestial music. Suns and their systems of planets sound forth the deep bass tones and rich tenor, while angelic races take the silvery treble of the divine melody, octave upon octave, by more and ever more ethereal system upon system, to the very throne of Deity, the infinite, eternal source of light, life, and love. Let us learn through the knowledge of the stars to attune our souls to vibrate to the divine harmony, so that we may take our places in the celestial choir and blend our voices with those of the celestial singers, chanting the divine anthem, "We praise thee, O God." To resume, if we would gain a correct knowledge of astral science, we should study astrology in its universal application, side by side with its more intricate phase and the details, as manifested upon the individual man and his material destiny. Let us digress for a moment. The intellectual minds, the material scientists who cavil at the science of the stars, declaring it to be mere fortune-telling, consequently false, do but air their ignorance of this most profound subject, not knowing that it embraces and contains all sciences, all religions that have ever been or ever will be, comprises all history of every age, of races, empires, and nations, that it is the only true chronology, and marks the destiny not only of personal man on every plane, but of the human family as a whole. All mythologies find their explanation in this starry language, and every religion is founded upon the movements of our solar system. The rise and fall of empires and races of men are written in its pages. To master as far as we are capable and our limited space of life here will permit, we must pursue the study in its broad sense, as already stated, in the external application of the starry influx, and upon the interior planes of action from God to the mineral to man, I, and man to the angel, finding in every section a complete and perfect correspondence. To master the alphabet should be the first step, whose vowels, diphthongs, and consonants are the planets and shining zodiac. It is very essential to clearly comprehend the action and reaction of the planets upon the human organism as an integral part of the universal organism, ever remembering that the starry vowels, in combination with the consonants or zodiac, form the infinite expressions comprising the language of the starry heavens in their threefold manifestation upon the external planes of life, while the radiant constellations are the ideas which find expression through this language, which is likewise a science, accurate in its mathematical construction and perfect in geometric proportion. The student should ever bear in mind that astrology, like every other science, is progressive. The underlying principles are always the same. These are like the laws of the Medes and Persians, but the plane of action is constantly changing. It is a well-established and indisputable truth that from the sun, the solar center of our system, is derived all force, every power and variety of phenomena that manifests itself upon Mother Earth. Therefore, when we remember that the solar parent passes through one sign of his celestial zodiac in 2,160 years, a 12th part of his orbit of 25,920 years, we see that from each sign in turn, he, the sun, rays forth an influx peculiar to that special sign. And as there are no two signs alike in nature or quality, hence the passage of the sun from one sign into another causes a change of polarity in planetary action, which can be fully demonstrated and conclusively proven. It follows as a natural sequence that the rules formulated and taught by astrologers in reference to the plane of planetary influence in one subcycle will not hold good in the next. To illustrate, in the year 1881, the sun passed from the sign Pisces into Aquarius, thus beginning a new cycle of solar force. The human race has entered upon a cycle in every respect differing in nature and action from the past cycle of 2,160 years. The sign Aquarius is masculine, electric, positive. It is intellectual in character, scientific, philosophic, artistic, intuitive, and metaphysical. It is the sign of the man. The truths of the past are becoming etherealized. Our solar parent has scarcely crossed the threshold of the sign Aquarius, and already we observe in many directions the activities of the peculiar influx. True, it is but the first flush of the dawn of a new era, the harbinger of a glorious day to our race. In the light of this truth, ponder well on the nature of the influx radiating from the solar center, each orb of his shining family absorbing a different ray or attribute of solar energy, corresponding to its own peculiar nature. The Earth, in her annual passage about her solar parent, receives the harmonious or discordant vibrations of this astral influx according to the many angles she forms to the various planets. We see, then, that the Earth is enveloped in an atmosphere or zone of occult force we recognize as humane, mental, positive, etc., acting and reacting upon the human family through the laws of vibration in strict and exact ratio to its interior capacity to receive and ability to externalize upon the material plane of being. The results, as far as this stage of existence goes, will be manifest as man vibrates harmoniously or otherwise to the stellar cause. The present subcycle producing an entirely different influence to that of the past cycle, whose force was watery, magnetic, and feminine, causes a wearing of elements, confusion, and uncertainty, until the old are displaced by the new conditions. We should learn from these facts that it is folly to brand as false and condemn as worthless the rules and formulas, and even religious thought of the past when we find upon careful investigation and crucial tests their inadequacy to account for present conditions. They were true in their cycle and applied to past conditions and states of mental development, but in this new era upon whose threshold we now stand, the vibrations become more intense. Man's whole nature is being tuned to a higher key. We must not forget that these cycles apply to the race in their effect and to the individual only as an integral part of the whole. To illustrate, the sign Aquarius is an electrical, positive, masculine influence, and will, consequently, manifest its chief activities upon the masculine qualities of the human soul, and today we have evidence of this in the gradual enfranchisement of women, arousing the positive attributes of her nature in demanding equal rights with her brother, man, in the political arena, as she has already done in the educational field. The masculine portion of the race is becoming more aggressive, mentally, asserting greater individuality, independent thought and action. The intellect of the race is being directed, however, slowly into scientific channels, while the human soul is slowly awakening to a sense of a deathless immortality and a desire for spiritual truth. It is slowly but surely shaking off the yoke of an effete priesthood and the fetters of superstition and tyranny. Intelligent man talks of the new scientific and intellectual era that has dawned upon the world, of the necessity for a new religious system based upon scientific truths which can be demonstrated, combined with the pure spiritual essence found in all systems of religion, a religion with more spirituality and less theology, a broader charity and less dogma, and deeper love for God and man, its only creed. We must now consider the astral influence of the cycle upon the physical organism of mankind, and particularly, intelligent man talks of the new scientific and intellectual era that has dawned upon the world, of the necessity for a new religious system based upon scientific truths which can be demonstrated, combined with the pure spiritual essence found in all systems of religion, a religion with more spirituality and less theology, a broader charity and less dogma, and deeper love for God and man, its only creed. We must now consider the astral influence of the cycle upon the physical organism of mankind, and particularly of the Western races, who are moving upon the upward arc of the cycle. It is quite evident that a radical change must take place in the physical form and constitution with the influx of more intellectual, ethereal, and spiritual vibrations. The organism must become more refined and compact, a greater degree of sensitiveness be attained with a highly nervous system. The forerunner of this superior organism is now apparent in the numerous schools of physical culture and gymnasiums throughout the land. The many articles and pamphlets on deep rhythmic breathing disseminated among the people, and last but not least, the various schools of mental healing, etc. The masses look on and wonder while they exclaim, "What marvelous changes are coming to the world," but are utterly ignorant of the cause of the mysterious change. To the student of Hermetic philosophy, there is no mystery involved. He knows the cause, and confidentially watches for the effect. Each one must seek to comprehend for himself, according to the light he may receive, basing his premises upon the true principles of astrology, carefully noting the triune aspect of planetary influence upon humanity, ever remembering that the sun and moon are the great factors in human destiny, and that his premises and conclusions must occupy the same plane. Having acquired a knowledge of the science in its application to the individual, take the broader field or universal aspect as it applies to human race, and you will find the rise and fall of nations, empires, and families marked upon the celestial dial, and in perfect accord with the influence of the sun and planets upon Mother Earth in her various movements. And last, but most important, seek with an earnest desire for truth to learn the relation of those glittering constellations of the shining zodiac to the human soul, and their influence in shaping its eternal destiny. This will reveal the whole of involution and evolution in a general sense. A faithful, earnest, and devout study of the science of the starry heavens will lead us on to other planes of thought, relating to still more interior realms of knowledge than we perhaps now dream of, and in the words of the master, a true knowledge of the stars will include a true knowledge of the soul, and we shall realize the mystical link that binds the soul to the stars. Minnie Higgin. End of section 1. Recording by Jill Preston.